Back up. Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trace Trocchi, joined by Adam Eaton. Welcome in to Sons of UCF Live. Adam, we talk all the time throughout the week, but I enjoy the hour or so we spend together every week at this time.
Always a lot of fun, Trace. Always a lot of banter between us and everybody else. Matt Dolan on screen as always. Good to see Matt here. Another Matt Turman, running the chat again for us tonight. So be kind to Matt in the chat,
or not.
And today, Trace, this is groundbreaking news. I'm going to let everybody in on something that is only behind the scenes here. This is the most ever number of videos we're going to play in any one show. We are at 13 videos to play tonight. That breaks the Sons of UCF Live record. So sit back and enjoy. I don't even know what some of these videos are. I just put them in here. So hopefully you all enjoy them as much as I enjoyed making all 13 of them.
The 13 videos on the 13th of February. Monday, Adam, was the 10th of February. I had a call from a work colleague, one of our vendors. And I got a Happy New Year right off the top of the call. Yeah. And I started laughing. And she was like, what? And I go, no, it's good to talk with you. But I was thinking of you.
No, you hang up that phone right then and there. That's a vendor I no longer do business with. Whatever they provide for you from a service perspective, I take that out to bid right away. There's no need for that. No need for that. Now, you can derive it. You can say, hey, I hope you've had a great New Year so far. You can do something like that if you really have to do the small talk. But to wish a Happy New Year, that's just unacceptable.
She was quite gleeful about it.
I bet she was. Sounds like somebody who would be.
Made me laugh. You mentioned Mr. Matt Dolan. 28 weeks, he writes, until the start of the 2025 UCF football season. Fifth quarter UCF, 196 days. And it was this week we saw the reemergence of Scott Frost, who we hadn't seen since early December in really a formal way. He was at the Hula Bowl. He was at the groundbreaking for the Roth Tower construction. But in conversation... And what was your big takeaway? All those videos are out there. I've got them on my social media. Half an hour sit down with the head coach.
Yeah, look, I enjoyed the introspection that he seems to take with each question, and he offers, I think a thoughtful answer. I think it's not always coach speak with Frost, which I appreciate, and I'm not going to look backwards on the Malzahn era, but I'll appreciate for what Coach Frost does now. I think the thing was really telling was him talking about how they're pushing the guys that are there, how they push the guys who decide to stay, and how well that's been received by the players. And you want to build a culture, you want to build a winning foundation. We heard from a lot of people, Trace. I know you asked this question about Zach Duvall and the strength and conditioning program, and it sounds like that's really been something that has changed dramatically for UCF. And early returns, according to Coach Frost, are kind of the buy-in. The second thing that really kind of hit me is, look, we're all impatient, right? We all want things to happen. I guess I didn't realize the magnitude of what Coach Frost had to do in a short amount of time. Yeah. Like for us, it's like, hey, get players, get coaches. How hard could this be? But, trying to find players, coaches, doesn't know where he's living at this point, like trying to do a bunch of stuff, get a staff. I guess we underestimated how hard that work had to be for the period of time. And so the fact that he pulled all this off, I think is impressive. And some of the guys we talked to and some of the guys you guys had a chance to meet with were pretty impressive to hear from as well.
I thought for sure one of your takeaways would be Coach Frost walking out and complimenting young Andrew Cherry.
See, I didn't hear that selection. That wasn't on the video. I saw the tweet, but that didn't get captured on any of the videos. So if there's video of that, somebody send that to us. I'll play that all the time.
I don't think we were rolling on any of that. I was a little insulted. I got to tell you, he didn't mention my shoes or compliment me, but this happens all the time when I'm with Andrew. As you were talking about his December, think about when he ended his first tenure. That was a very hectic and crazy. It's a good question for Coach Frost at some point to compare the two Decembers in terms of exhaustion. Remember, he was jetting across the country for recruiting and assembling a staff and all that with Nebraska, and also preparing the team for the Peach Bowl. So I wonder how he compares those two fatiguing periods of time.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear him in the sit down that he had with Mark Daniels and at the podium on Wednesday, talking about how, and I guess it's interesting, but candidly, how he wasn't prepared for this. He wasn't planning on doing back into coaching. So he didn't have that list of coaches he wanted, didn't have a list of players that he was going to call. So it was kind of telling that, he was really candid about, look, I wasn't really prepared for this, but I had to start. And so I just can't hit the ground running. You're typically hearing coaches talk about, they never show weakness, right? They always want to pretend like they're on top of everything, they know everything. And I thought it was kind of introspective for him to say, like, yeah, I wasn't ready for this. I didn't have any of this stuff. I was trying to figure it out on the fly. And now we'll see if that comes back to bite us in the hindquarters as the season goes on. But I thought it was telling that he was open about what he was facing personally as he tried to get back into coaching after being out of it at the college level for at least 2.5 seasons.
Following the half hour with Coach Frost, all of the assistants, first the offensive assistant coaches and then the defensive assistant coaches, were made available. And we deployed Suns' army of interns, Andrew Cherko, Dwayne Jones, to talk with the coaches. We're compiling all of that. You're compiling all of that, and will be released on Sons of UCF YouTube. But you've got a couple of snippets you pulled for our Sons Live audience.
Yeah, I can't wait for everyone to see some of these conversations. And the first one that I was really struck by, Trace, I really enjoyed the video I saw with Steve Cooper, our offensive coordinator. Very thoughtful, very personable, very approachable. And I thought it was an interesting answer when Dwayne Jones asked him a little bit about offense and sort of what his philosophy was. And I think his answer here is really interesting.
An offensive mind as an offensive coach, there's all sorts of cool ideas out there, and you certainly want to lean into some of those ideas, but also you learn that sometimes simple is better, and it's both ends of the spectrum. But
I thought it was interesting talking about his I guess growing up in the coaching profession, his time at Boise State, and kind of what he learned. I thought that was a telling quote. And again, a really, really down to earth fella. You could tell through the conversations. But somebody, Trace, everyone was excited about was the one McKenzie Milton. Obviously, McKenzie's back. He got a lot of attention. Obviously, at Media Day, a lot of folks want to talk to McKenzie. Coach McKenzie.
Coach.
I heard Andrew call him Coach. And it took me a second, but I was like, I guess Andrew would only know him as a coach. He wasn't here when McKenzie played, so he only knows him as coach, which is kind of weird. But again, the same old KZ that you listen to. And I loved this comment about kind of what this means to him and what this means to the overall team for the staff to be back.
You don't get what you deserve, you get what you earn. So to me, got to go earn, that title, got to go earn, whatever we want to go get as a team here. And really at the end of the day, it's just pouring into these guys, teaching them what I know, and letting them go putting them in a position to go make plays, and I believe we'll do that.
Yeah, I love that.
Extended conversation with Coach Milton.
I love that. You get what you earn, not what you deserve. And I think that's interesting. He talked about sort of being a new coach and wanting to kind of prove himself. And that was a theme, Trace. You were there for a lot of the conversation. You heard Coach Frost talk a little bit about some of the other coaches. That was a theme that I picked up for the conversations around. This is a staff that's kind of back together for the first time ever and trying to prove a bunch of stuff to a bunch of people. And that resonated through all the conversations.
Yeah, and we also heard from perhaps the more questionable of the hires, the defensive coordinator, Mr. Grinch. We heard from him as well in those one-on-one conversations. I'm really looking forward to this. Is the first time I've heard the sound. I'm waiting for it to get posted, of course. So very interesting to hear their comments. And, it wasn't an overwhelming media contingent for this one. Daytona 500 Media Day occurring at the same time. Perhaps the timing not the best for UCF in that regard, but it made it a little bit lighter there in terms of the demand. And there were extended conversations had with Dwayne and Andrew.
Well, you mentioned Coach Grinch. I think it was Andrew who had a chance to talk to him about kind of defense and philosophy and what kind of defense we're going to see from Coach Grinch. And we've been kind of talking about this one word, Trace, and it was interesting. I think that Coach Grinch used this word to describe his defense.
Yeah, I think just putting the guys in the best position to use their athleticism. As you talk through development, you'll never compromise speed as you go through the process, and so making sure that. The product on the field suggests that we can be one of the fastest defenses in the country. So looking to find those guys. And part of that is the understanding of where you need to be. And so that's going to be a big thing over the course. You can't play fast if you're thinking, or you're certainly you can't play as fast as you otherwise can.
UCF fast is back, Trace, except maybe on the defensive side of the ball. Who knew?
Some of the conversations we've had questioned whether it was the interview you had with a gentleman that covers Nebraska for The Athletic, right, where he said maybe Coach Frost didn't assemble the best staff prepared for the Big Ten. And it's interesting because he didn't know all of these guys, right? He wasn't going to hire an entire staff of people he knew. So it's going to be interesting to see the way they come together. I know fans have been critical of Coach Grinch.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Frost was pretty upfront in both his presser and other conversations about, he didn't know Coach Grinch. He'd played against him and thought his defenses gave his offensive fits, and that was a guy that he wanted to reach out to, and he liked the fact that another guy similar to, he kind of paralleled those stories around, hey, he's kind of got a chip on the shoulder like I do. Hasn't worked out the last couple of places. He went from sort of in a rising star capacity to, an afterthought in some ways, and so I think that redemption arc is certainly weaving its way through this coaching staff. And you forget, I mean, Grinch has been at USC, he's been Oklahoma, he's been a couple of different places, was at Ohio State for a period of time. He's been at some really important programs. So curious to see how much he can sort of bring some of that to this UCF defense. But I mean, he talked a little bit about, we're in Florida, we're going to play fast, we're going to play with speed. And I think that'll be interesting to see how this defense comes together. A lot of new faces on that side of the ball, as with both sides, frankly. How does he bring this defense together? And how does that all work out? Another shout out, too, I think that was interesting, Trace, was the amount of people who are tipping their cap to Coach Kenny Martin, Kmart, as a lot of people refer to him in the interviews. You'll hear how much he held this team together, how much he's kind of been a big bridge to continuity from where we were, under the previous regime to where they are now, too. So even Coach Grinch was really effusive in his praise of Coach Martin and sort of what he's done to help kind of keep things stabilized as this new staff rolled into town.
As you're talking about Coach Frost's month of December or into January, what do you think was the most challenging in that? He said he was trying to figure out NIL, right? And what was available. There was that recruiting process he sort of stepped into, but had to acquire an awful lot of players, right? I asked him about what those conversations were like with guys buying in. And I thought his answers, he's thoughtful in his responses too, right? He doesn't give you just 20 seconds of coach speak. And maybe it'll wear thin if there's some losses that begin to pile up. But I found him to be thoughtful in his response, and just having to navigate all of that in a short period of time, assembling the coaching staff and all of those things. But I thought it was interesting when he talked about getting that player buy-in and guys that wanted to be at UCF.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. He said this, and we talked about him not having kind of that Rolodex of stuff, right? I think the hire of, he mentioned Jeff Love specifically as kind of a player personnel guy that helped him understand some of the player movement, who's there, because he doesn't have an active roster of guys to go get. So I think that's probably the most important thing he had to do, was find somebody he could quickly get and lean on to help him get in the game in terms of which kids to look for, what NIL looks like, how all that comes together too. So, probably behind the scenes, that'll end up being one of those hires if this works out in a few years. We talk about his role kind of in this first opening class for Coach Frost and getting it back up to speed.
Now, by and large, UCF fans have liked the hire of Scott Frost, the welcome back, but that hire has not gone over well all places. Bill Trocchi, who joins us now from the Sporting News, grading the college football hires. I'll skip to the end, grades it a D, and I'll go to the last line of that excerpt, Bill, and welcome in. Hard to see this working out in any way, so a little skeptical you are of the return of Scott Frost.
I am a little skeptical. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to talk college football here in the off season. Adam invited me on to talk about it. I figured it was not a popular take with the UCF fan base that you guys like to talk to. But yeah, I think, there was several things that I didn't really like about the hire. I feel like Scott is going back to a very different place. First of all, just in college football in general. Secondly, at a place now that they're no longer in the American, they're in the Big 12. So it's a harder job than it was before. And to me, his 4+ years at Nebraska showed that, he didn't win at the margins, at Nebraska. He lost a lot of close games, 22 one-score games, I believe. He did not show the ability to, there were special teams mistakes constantly. There were penalties. There were untimely turnovers. Quarterback play wasn't great. Play in the fourth quarter, they gave up, touchdowns and long drives in all these games over and over. And just, his record was really bad at Nebraska. And so he wasn't winning at the margin. And I feel like UCF, as a G5 program that's now going into the Big 12, has been in the Big 12 for 2 years. They need to win at the margins. And he didn't show the ability to do that at Nebraska.
But you got to like the redemption arc, right? I mean, that's going to help your story when you do the next iteration of this, where he goes from D to, better grade at least.
It is wild. It's funny to think. And I watched, I think it was Adam, you had an interview with Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. I watched that today, and seeing some of the things that he said about, the problems that Scott had at Nebraska. And one of them was living up to expectations, and everybody thought he was going to be great. And like the ceiling was, through the roof, and he was going to do so, restore Nebraska. And I feel it's a little ironic. He might have those same type of expectations at UCF, at least among the fan base. Oh, he was undefeated here. We were, 13-0. We were the national darlings. Of course, he's going to be able to do it again. And then, like I said, it's a lot harder job this time than it was the first time through. So I hope for his sake that it's different this time around, that, he can live up to the expectations, but he's sort of entering, a shrunken version of that, in terms of he's going to get it done for us. Everybody's got this blind faith, like, okay, we're going to run back. You tell me how much skepticism there is with the Scott Frost hire. I think generally it's been accepted as very, very positive for your fan base. Is that right?
Yeah, I had to laugh when I saw the grade, and I disagreed with it, but I read the words and I went, well, now there's a point there. and you make a good point there. And I could see how it adds up to some skepticism. And yeah, I would say by and large, Night Nation has bought into the hire.
Good. Yeah. So, what were his numbers? I got them written down here somewhere. When he was at Nebraska, the Big Ten West was not loaded with, great teams or anything. He was 16-31. I think you guys probably know these numbers. Didn't go to a bowl game. He was 10-26 in Big Ten play, 0-14 versus ranked teams. Wasn't the giant killer or that kind of thing. And, like I said, I was looking at UCF. So they've been in the Big 12 for 2 years. And I looked at the 12 teams that have been in the league for those 2 years. So I threw out Oklahoma and Texas. I threw out all those the 4-pack 12 schools. So there's been 12 teams in the last 2 years. UCF 5 conference wins. That's tied for 10th among those 12 teams that have been in the league for the 2 years. And with them near the bottom of the league is Houston and Cincinnati, which are G5 programs that have moved up to the Power 4. And so they have had, and traditionally that's how it works. It's tough to adjust to the new level. SMU broke the mold last year by winning the ACC right in the first year, the regular season title anyway. So it's a really hard job. And I just, like I said, number one, he did not do well at Nebraska. He had everything going in his favor when he was hired. And it was a slam dunk hire at the time, right? Sure. Oregon.
Did you grade that an A at the time?
Fantastic at Oregon. He was fantastic at UCF. He's the hero going home. It was just, it couldn't have been more of a slam dunk. But, sometimes slam dunks, sometimes you miss a slam dunk. Lincoln Riley at USC would look like a slam dunk. That hasn't been a slam dunk so far. It took Jim Harbaugh 8 years to be a slam dunk at Michigan. He was a slam dunk hire, but it certainly took him a long time too. So,
well, Bill, I want to test your thought process just a little bit. In that same article, you talked about Rich Rodriguez, another person going home, right, going back to where he's from in West Virginia. If you look at Rich Rod's coaching career post West Virginia, flamed out of Michigan, didn't do great at Arizona, gets to Jacksonville State, a G5 school as we're talking about, and has a really good season with Jacksonville State. Yet you have the return graded an A. So as you juxtapose the difference between Frost and Rich Rodriguez, why is Frost at that D level with almost the reverse course of action from what you saw with Rich Rodriguez?
So I did kind of a deep dive on Rich Rodriguez. It was fascinating. I thought he did much better at Arizona than I think people realize. I don't have it in front of me. I feel like he had 6 winning seasons in 7 years there, took over a program that had not had a lot of success, didn't have a lot of success after he left either. He left under cloudy circumstances. He had a sexual harassment case against him that he was later exonerated from. He showed that he can still coach ball at Jacksonville State. He did a great job there. And when he was at West Virginia, here's what the stat that kind of shook me when I looked at what he did at West Virginia as far as elevating that program. 31-5, I think his last 3 years or whatever, almost made the national championship game, famously lost to Pittsburgh there at the end, turned down Alabama, if we remember that too, and then ended up going to Michigan. Bill Stewart replaced him at West Virginia, went 9-4, 9-4, 9-3, and basically got fired. So that was the expectation level post Rich Rod for West Virginia. That's how much he raised. They would kill for 9-4, 9-4, 9-3 right now, but they can't. They can't get there. So I feel like he's a great coach. He did terrible. Michigan was just an awful fit. He had some NCAA problems there, like too much practices and too many coaches or something like that. Like not really recruiting problems. But I just feel like West Virginia is it's kind of like UCF in that they are welcoming him home, all was forgiven. But it was kind of an ugly breakup when he went to Michigan because everybody thought West Virginia was a top 5 program. Like, why are you leaving a top 5 program? But he ended up, especially when he turned down Alabama the year before. But I think they're welcoming him back, and he has shown the ability to win. Scott did not show the ability to win in Nebraska, and so, like I said, I thought he did a better job than I realized at Arizona when he was there.
How much did you factor in sort of the program that Frost is taking over? You mentioned some of the statistics, right? Those fall under the Gus Malzahn era, which Chris and I went back. I know it's not your publication, but another publication graded that higher, an A+ at the time when we hired Malzahn. Certainly did not live up to be that way. So Frost is taking over a rebuild. How much did you factor in kind of what it is that he's kind of taking over, or kind of deep dive in the current state of the Knights to determine sort of how you would think about that grade in terms of what UCF needs right now?
Yeah, it's like he took over a rebuild at Nebraska too, and he just didn't rebuild it, So that's part of it. It's like, why is it going to work at UCF when it didn't work at Nebraska? That's part of my thinking. And yeah, UCF's whatever advantage you guys are probably know better than I do. It seemed like UCF had a built-in advantage when they were in the American because they had success under 4 different coaches, right? O'Leary had good seasons, Frost, Heupel, Malzahn, they all did well in the American. So it's one of those programs, kind of like, not quite like Gonzaga at the West Coast Conference in hoops, but you know what I'm saying? Like they were going to be good. They were kind of coach recession proof or whatever. Like every coach was able to do it. And then now we don't know, right? So Malzahn had success in the American, did not have success in Big 12. Can Frost turn that around? And like I said, to me, he didn't show it at Nebraska, and then in the last 2 years, any college football job is a totally different job. You know what I mean? So it's just going to be an uphill challenge for him. And I thought there's some candidates out there that I thought might have been a better fit or had better resumes at the time. I like Jason Candle at Toledo. He's been in the MAC for 8 years or so. He's won the MAC 3 times, and that's a league where everybody is kind of similar. There's no Oklahoma killing everybody in the Big 12 type of thing. It's like he has won at the margins. This is my point. Like it's like, and that's what the Big 12 is now. It's like everybody is kind of in that middle ground, and if you get the right coach, he can really do something. So I think Candle's overdue for a Power 4 job. I really like Jeff Monken at Army. I don't think he's married necessarily to the option, but he has done wonders at that program. They had 16 losing seasons in 17 years before he got there. They've had 3 since he got there in like 10 or 11 seasons. They finished in the top 25 this year. He won with 12 wins. He's had an 11-win season. He's had a 10-win season. So I liked him. And I guess one more coach. Oh, you know who I love? Out of Syracuse. I don't know what you guys think. Fran Brown. He's only been there for 1 year. He had a great reputation as a recruiter at Georgia. I was like, is this going to translate to Syracuse? I don't know. It's 2 totally different things. He brings in Kyle McCord from Ohio State, recruited him, right? He pulled him in after he got the job. McCord had a great year. They went 9-3. 8 of their 9 wins were against bowl teams this year. I loved him. I was early on him. I thought Fran Brown should replace Mac Brown at North Carolina. I was saying this like October, before Mac was even like on the way out or whatever. So I'm a big Fran Brown fan. I think he's going to move up in the world. I think, if I think he would have been a bigger success at UCF than he was at Syracuse, given his recruiting prowess and the fact he was at Georgia. He was probably already recruiting the South. You know what I mean? So I think he's got some connections in Florida. I would like to see what Fran Brown could do with this job.
We will see Coach Frost against Coach Rodriguez, but before that, UCF will welcome in North Carolina head coach Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick was available. How about that?
which sounds funny. What do you make of that hire? I see you have a Patriot shirt.
I do. I grew up in New England. Yeah, we were talking with, I was actually, Andrea Adelson from ESPN, who's a big ACC reporter, was on our podcast earlier this morning. And we were talking about, like, I don't love the staff he's putting together, that Michael Lombardi is his GM. He hasn't been in college football for 40 years. I mean, Belichick hasn't been in college football for 50 years or whatever it is. At least I want your GM to be in college football. He's hired not one, but two of his sons. He hired Lombardi's son to be the quarterback's coach. He was an offensive analyst, I think, at Oregon. He wasn't an on-field coach or whatever. So, like, I don't know. Like, towards the end of his tenure with the Patriots, like, you know, he famously hired Matt Patricia. He moved Matt Patricia, defensive coordinator, to offensive coordinator, thinking that was going to work. That did not work. So I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, he could coach circles around the ACC and take them right to the top. On the other hand, he could, have one winning season, go right back to the NFL, or just, be a total disaster because he doesn't understand the college game and what he's facing and all of the surrounding things he's going to have to deal with. So fascinating one. It's just like the Deion one. We couldn't wait to watch Deion at Colorado. I think people are going to not be able to wait to watch Belichick at North Carolina.
No shortage of storylines. Good things to talk about in the dog days of February. Bill Trocchi, Sporting News. We appreciate you being with us on Sons of UCF Live.
Hey, that was great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. All right, Adam, what do you think? A little water on our enthusiasm with Coach Frost this week. I mean, he makes some points, right? Yeah. And the conversation about the margins, it wasn't all just dumb luck that they lost so many close games.
Yeah, look, I think there's certainly some things about his tenure in Nebraska that we all recognize, but nostalgia is a hell of a drug, Trace, right? And for all of us, I think that's kind of the boat we're in and the nostalgic place. And maybe this guy understands UCF differently than other guys and replicate that magic. Certainly not a slam dunk by any stretch. So maybe D's a little harsh. Maybe get him in that C range where you're just not quite sure. D feels like a failure. So hopefully this adds to the chip on the shoulder nature. I highly doubt Coach Frost is watching this, but if he is, hopefully it adds to the chip on the shoulder nature that him and the staff are kind of talking about as they put this team together in 2025.
Besides those fans, UCF Mike, who's going to go and predict 12-0, I think fans are pretty grounded, right? Not expecting too much. So there's a chance to exceed those tempered expectations.
Yeah, look, I think everyone's kind of realistic that this is going to be, and Coach Frost has been super upfront about this is a rebuilding project. We are rebuilding this thing, right? I think he's very strategically laying that out right now that this is going to take some time. And so, I do think there will be expectations are tempered. I think fans just want to see us be in games, us not do things to shoot ourselves in the foot, and have players that are out there that are kind of giving their all, and we're not just kind of falling in love with the same 11 guys and never change the personnel grouping. So I think you see some of that difference. I think fans will be happy, at a 3 to 5-6 win season, maybe not 3, 4 to 5-6. I think fans will be okay with that, but I think fans would have rioted if we had Jason Candle. So I think we're everyone's much happier with Coach Frost than Jason Candle.
You use the phrase "be in games and don't shoot yourself in the foot" as we segue into men's basketball amidst a 5-game losing streak, losing at home the other night to number 10 Iowa State. Andrew Cherico has the recap in our basketball minute.
Struggling is the right word for UCF, as this night's team is on a 5-game losing streak and they know they need to snap it. Andrew Cherico here in Additional Financial Arena for the Sons of UCF. After Thursday media availability with UCF men's basketball head coach Johnny Dawkins and guard Mikey Williams, this night's team has never experienced 6 consecutive losses under Coach Dawkins, and the urgency is there for the team not to let it reach that point.
We have to take a next play mentality, a next play approach. Our next opponents are most important, and that's how we focused every game and focused on every game this season. So Colorado's our next opponent. We're preparing for them, very hard. And, we're going to go out there and we're going to compete, and that's what we have to do. But our guys have been practicing well. The energy's been good. Spirit's been good. Everybody just understand we got to find a way to win, and that's just where we are, and that's how we're approaching it.
Definitely to just win. We're coming off a few losses, so we definitely been locked in. Just putting the games behind us, trying to go 1-0, just moving forward.
No more losses are affordable for UCF as the conference season is winding down, as the thoughts of an NCAA tournament bid are skipping away. None of that matters if the Knights don't leave Boulder with a win, as they tip off Saturday at 3 p.m. against Colorado. And until next time, I'm Andrew Cherico for the Sons of
UCF. Go 1-0. Is he channeling his inner Josh Heupel? At Lisa Vandewide on Twitter says, can't wait to hear what Ben has to say now, and still no bow tie. We welcome in Ben Hazel. I've heard more about Ben's comments last week than any Ben has made since being with us on Suns. Welcome into Suns Live.
Glad to be here. I mean, I definitely got some new bow ties in preparation for the season. Just haven't had the opportunity to bust them out. It's a sad day. We're running out of episodes.
Yeah. Well, hey, UCF held Iowa State under 80, but lost by 12. They didn't give up 108 as they did in their first matchup of the season.
Yeah, and I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse. We just don't play defense. That's just our biggest issue, and I think it just becomes more and more apparent every game. We're a lot more physical on offense than we are on defense for some reason, and I don't necessarily understand it, but it's why we're here.
Thursday media availability, Mikey Williams made available. He had a pretty good game. He got some minutes against Iowa State.
Yeah, congrats to him. He looked really comfortable. He brought a spark. I thought it was really impressive. You could see the growth. He's getting off the ball, getting it back, making plays off the catch, being a little more decisive. He's showing some growth there. It was really exciting to see and definitely happy for him. So hopefully he can keep building on that because we need some production off the bench from somebody.
Ben, I've never done this before, and I don't pretend to be an accomplished ESPN analyst like you, but I saw a play in the game that I had to go back and rewatch, and I actually pulled the clip because this, to me, is the microcosm of UCF season. So I want to play this play for you, and I want you to watch it and then give us your analysis on kind of what you see here on this play.
First time this night, DJ, that we're saying a team is going to the line in the bonus, but Keyshawn Hall couldn't hit the front end of the 1-and-1. There's Chatfield with a follow. Body 4:35 to go. Grant Chatfield has matched his season high with 9 points tonight.
All off the hardened hustle. Keyshawn Gilbert usually finishes plays like these, but it always.
So what I see, Ben, is one guy wide open and three Knights just standing around staring at him. But my favorite part is Keyshawn Hall gives Juice Curry a little shove like, hey, man, go get him, as opposed to doing anything. That, to me, is the microcosm of UCF. Three guys standing there watching a guy just put in an open shot. No box out, nobody hitting anybody, nobody trying anything.
Right. And it's funny that you showed that clip because I had just watched it before I came on just to make sure I'm not, again, losing my mind when I make these statements that our defense is really just bad. And that is a microcosm of the issue, right? You would think that basically Jordan Ivy Curry, I watched a ton of clips of where guys are just scoring. Like, you know what I mean? Like Keyshawn Gilbert looked 6'10" on that play. The way he held him off and just stiff-armed him while he goes and shoots a layup. It's like, yo, you got to fight a little bit harder to get in front of the guy. And if you can't, grab an arm. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, that's typically what you'll see guys do. Like, hey, if you put your arm on me, I'll grab it. Hey, I'll take a foul. It's not like Jordan Ivy Curry has been in foul trouble at any game this season. So those are just the little things where you're like, you said it. It's a microcosm of kind of the poor defense we've been playing across pretty much the entire conference.
Have we passed the point, Ben, where at this juncture of the season where you can start cutting guys minutes if they're not playing on defense? Are we just past that point where that'll even matter? Or is the risk of giving up offense just not worth maybe cutting somebody's minutes if they're not giving that effort on defense?
Oh, no. Now Mikey's playing well. That's where it'll go, right? Like, that's pretty much Coach Dawkins. Like, he's a play it out guy, right? Like when we talk about making adjustments to the starting lineup, you asked me a question about Debo, but my first question was, who would we put in his position that we're like, hey, that gives us more of something? Coach Dawkins, I know, waits for guys to emerge and establish and basically take the role that they want, right? Like if you want more minutes, start doing the things that this team needs to win. And that's what I think Mikey really did as far as his performance. There's some small things that he's still learning, but you saw his confidence, you saw his comfort, and you could see the difference in how he went about it. He would give it up, get it back, then try to make a play, kick it out, throw it ahead, cut through, backdoor, the dunk. I love dunks, so that was extremely impressive to me. But that's really what it is. Like some guys need to start emerging, and Coach Dawkins will definitely play you more if you're playing better.
Knights are 13-11 overall, 4-9 in the Big 12 amidst the 5-game losing streak. So 24 games in, 7 left in conference before that conference tournament. Explain how they can get better and finish strong in regular season play.
I think the number one thing is just effort and emphasis, really. Like we have veteran guys playing, like you have Jordan Ivy Curry, who's been through the ringers in many different conferences and different gyms. But really, it's just an emphasis on how important those plays are, like the one that we just showed. For him, he can walk out of a game and say, like a Keyshawn Hall, he walks out of, I feel like a lot of games like, like I really did everything that I needed to do. And when you watch the clips, like even against Baylor, you saw it against Iowa State where guys Mikey comes up on a pick and roll, the screen who Keyshawn's guarding guys pops. Mikey does what he's supposed to do, jabs and get backs to his. And then Keyshawn just lets the guy dribble straight to the basket and shoot a layup. It's like those are the plays where the other team needs to feel your presence just like they do on offense. And that's like we've said, week in and week out, like it's an easy correction, but I don't know how quickly it is you can flip care for that side for how important everything is. And that's kind of leans into kind of winning cultures and winning players that have come from winning programs. That's the difference. Like we're at the level where we're good enough to be in the games, but now we can really see the small things that separate, kind of the winners and who are consistent winners and the flashes in the pan.
They don't protect home court. Now they must go on the road. They escaped Colorado earlier in the season by a point at home. And Colorado hasn't won a game in Big 12 play. How dangerous are the Buffs in Boulder on Saturday?
Every team is extremely dangerous to us, right? Like I felt like we got in this little lull, like, we're the last 4 in. We're a tournament team. We got some easier games coming up. And yes, that is true relative to the rankings of our conference, but they're saying the same thing about us, right? Like these are some of our easier games for us to get back on track. So we can't really take the attitude that the team doesn't have what it takes to beat us, because they all do. We just got to come in and, see if we can piece it together. I mean, we play better on the road, so hopefully that'll help.
Ben, Mustafa Cham playing 35 plus minutes. What are the pros and cons of that, in your opinion?
The pros are he's getting better and better week in and week out. The bad part is the learning curve. We have to go through it as a team, and it affects our winning and losing. And you really just wish we had some veteran guys at that position that could contribute a little bit more than they are right now.
I feel like Tyler Hendricks has given UCF a bit of a shot in the arm in the limited time he's gotten on the floor. And it seems like he's taken this JJ Taylor minutes, who's, injured right now. But what does he have to do to get on the court more? What does Tyler have to show? Because I feel like he brings a little energy, like you're talking about, playing defense, getting to the right spots, but hasn't seemed to gotten any minutes this year. What do you think he needs to do to get on the court?
Tyler's biggest issue is, again, on the defensive end, right? Like when you talk about earning minutes and getting more time, of course, offense is something that can help you out, of course. But if you wanted to play and not have to make a shot, play defense and be extremely physical and play extremely hard on that end. And that's been the issue with Tyler. Guys come in the game similar to Juice. They kind of put him in the post, crash the glass extremely hard. They're extremely physical with him on the defensive end, or when we're playing defense, they're on offense. And that's kind of the scouting report. So if he can show some flashes, similar to Neal's, like he texts in and guys, ball screen, one-on-one, post-ups, like they go directly at him. They have to know that and really just kind of answer the bell and be offended by it, like you should be. It happens to every freshman, every college basketball player. It happened to me. guys calling ISOs on you because you're untested.
Mouse in the house.
Yeah, all of those things. And you should be offended. You should get a stop and you could yell at the coach. It's fine. It's accepted. We all know what's going on. And then it'll stop and you get to play more.
I saw Andrew Cherico's comment slide by earlier saying not a lot of production off the bench this season.
Yeah, that's been a big issue. So with Mikey and that, kind of performance and spark that he gave, I do think his role will expand because that is something that we just need. I mean, you've seen his minutes trade off between him and Dior. So when Dior plays well, you see him typically get a little bit more minutes. So if Mikey can sustain it, I think it'll just kind of continue to grow.
All right, if you were handing out the defensive MVP of this team for the season, who would get that award?
I mean, it's Darius, right? Like he's topping steals. Like he's not necessarily an issue from.
So there's one.
Yeah, exactly. So the physicality standpoint, he's fine. He gives good effort, I would say. But it's just as a collective, we're getting caught out of position a ton. Guys aren't fighting hard enough to get back in position. And that's why we're giving up all these offensive rebounds and points in the paint.
All right, Ben, we've exhausted the UCF questions. I'm going to go some NBA questions for you. Last night, there was controversy in the association. Tristan Thompson dunks with 4 seconds left at a 131-108 blowout win over the Raptors. The Raptors took exception to that. I need your ruling on this. Judge Hazel, should Tristan Thompson be dunking that with 4 seconds left when they're up by that much?
No, he shouldn't be. But like an NBA vet like Tristan Thompson, he knew exactly what he was doing. He could care less. And according to the rules, there's nothing you could do about it. So, I mean, you could be mad and all the NBA fake fight and all of those things. But, hey, he dunked it. It is what it is.
As a former player, what are the most sacred, unwritten rules to you? What are the things that I know unwritten rules are silly because you just write them down at some point, right? But what are the sacred unwritten rules from your playing days?
I don't even know if I have any sacred, as far as the scoring thing, people didn't really do that because you could get mercy ruled in the AAU. You know what I mean? That was a thing that teams tried to do if they're up 20 with 2 minutes, 3 minutes to go, the game's over. So you knew other teams were trying to do that. So if they're up 20 with 4 minutes to go, they're going to keep pressing you. So that wasn't really one. I mean, in my area, guys are extremely competitive. Even teammates of mine were playing in contested high school games against each other and get a tech. He'll tell you you're going to miss it while he walks by. It's a pretty cutthroat competition. So there's nothing really that's that sacred, honestly. You don't really do anything to undercut guys, stuff like that. That's where, typically I would say pretty much everybody understands that, a guy might actually fight you on the court for stuff like that. But for the most part, as long as it's not anything where you're injuring a guy, it's pretty fair game.
All right, coming up for the Knights, Colorado, Oklahoma State. Do we see you in a bow tie a week from tonight?
I hope so. I've been ironing them. I got them ready. They're hung up.
They're all lined up.
Yeah, I'm over here dreaming about a win.
Ben Hazel, we enjoy having you with us on Sons of UCF Live. See you in the bow tie next week.
Yes, sir. Go Knights.
Thanks, Ben.
Charge on, Ben. I like that. You 10 minutes in, guy.
I mean, what are we else going to ask him? He already said he's already said all he can say. I mean, there's no other way to say this team can't play defense other than saying it. So, I texted him about the Luka trade. So I was going to ask him the Luka trade, but I already got his thoughts on that too. So I want to leverage Ben for just more than telling me why our team can't cover pick and roll and figure out if we should be dunking with 4 seconds left in the game.
And if you want to know Ben's thoughts on that, Sons Plus.
Okay. Sons Plus.
Adam will reveal his text message conversation with Ben Hazel. Things heating up in the Big 12 and baseball and softball underway. We go around the Big 12 now with Jeff Allen.
It's a battle for the top of the standings as number 6 Houston at 12-1 takes on number 13 Arizona at 11-2. The Cougs are rolling on a 3-game win streak, and something has to give as Houston is 6-0 on the road in conference play, while Arizona is undefeated at 6-0 at home in conference. This showdown starts the day in the Big 12 Saturday at 2 o'clock on ESPN. Also at 2 o'clock, West Virginia battles Baylor. That one will be on ESPN2. Number 12 Texas Tech, which holds down the 3rd spot in conference, is at Oklahoma State State, 3 o'clock on ESPN+. Cincinnati clashes with number 10 Iowa State at 4 o'clock on ESPN2. Arizona State hosts TCU, 8 o'clock on ESPN+. BYU entertains Kansas State at 9 o'clock on ESPN+. And Big 12 After Dark has number 17 Kansas visiting Utah, 10 o'clock on ESPN. The losing streak for UCF stands at 5 games, and the Knights hit the road to face Colorado. They edged the Buffs here at home just over a month ago, 75-74, and aim for the season series sweep to try and break their losing skid. Catch it at 3 o'clock Saturday on ESPN+. With your Big 12 Minute, I'm Jeff Allen.
Jeff makes all of that sound so good. Orlando Valkyries back home on Saturday. Remember that if you go to baseball, little parking situation with that garage there, they'll be selling the spaces in that lot at Garage F. But I've got some tickets to the Valkyries' next home match, Grand Rapids Rise, or the following one against the Vegas Thrill. Just DM me at SignPez if you are interested in some tickets. All right, we playing Who Said It from our friends Christian and Bailey with a Pegasus podcast. Out again this week on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel.
All right, Trace. The quote is as follows. We're going to go back to our school colors. Trace is probably celebrating that. Who said that? Christian or Bailey? We're going to go back to our school colors. Trace is probably celebrating that.
Oh, that's a 50-50 right there. And
that's how that would work when there's two of them.
Yeah, I think Christian wants to try and fake me out on that. Would you say it again, please? Like the spelling bee. Would you say it again?
We're going to go back to our school colors. Trace is probably celebrating that.
I'm going to go with Christian.
And the winner is...
You're going to go back to our school colors. Trace is probably celebrating that.
Bailey J. Adams is the correct answer. You are now 1-1 on the season. And the Who Said That?
Are we keeping score?
We are now. We might as well at this point.
Who said that? Pegasus podcast. Breaking down the roster and more. You'll find it on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel. As you will also find the baseball preview for Media Day. Our guys, our interns, the Sons Army, Andrew Gregg, Nick Williams are covering the team this year. They'll be out all weekend at John Giuliano Park. You can find all of their interviews right now in our preview. And we got a couple of bites of sound from Media Day. First, let's hear from pitcher Wiley Hartley. He talks about the culture under head coach Rich Wallace.
And what do you believe is the culture that Coach Wallace has built, and how do you play a part in that?
I think just hard work. I think you play a part just by doing the right thing every day. But, yeah, he's coming in and he's just made sure if you're not working hard enough, it's just not acceptable. And we've been really building on that, doing great things.
What was that, Matt?
The Matt Turman photo bomb was the best part of that entire clip, yes.
What Matthew? You try to be in the video?
He's taking pictures. He's out there on the scene. He goes where the news is. What do you want to do?
Meantime, outfielder Matt Previsk, he was a Florida transfer back in 24. He talks about pitching in the Big 12 versus the SEC and what he's faced.
And we know that you previously came from the Florida Gators Ball Club. What's been the biggest difference for you between SEC play and Big 12 play?
I kind of just say the types of pitchers that the Big 12 has. I think in the SEC it's a lot more power fastball guys, with a bunch of ride, and they throw a lot harder. So, I think in the Big 12, these pitchers can actually pitch better. So you got to have a better approach.
But would you say they're better overall?
Yeah, I would.
Wait, was that Eric Lopez?
That was Eric Lopez, also photobombing. Shout out to the UCF acoustics team, by the way, for putting everybody in a tin can next to each other.
It didn't matter what quality of microphone you had. It didn't matter your proximity to the player. How about open those windows a little and let the sound flow out? UCF hosting Siena Friday at 6:30, Saturday 6:30, Sunday 1, and then Missouri on Wednesday at 6:30. Also, a good preview from our guy, Michael Theed, who was a guest on Around the Kingdom Overtime. He loves being behind the scenes and writing his articles, and you can follow him at Emptiness4 on Twitter during the game. He's not as keen as joining us for the audio and video, but I thought he did a great job explaining what to look for this Knights team this season.
Listen, I'm a casual baseball follower, right? I usually get kind of looped in as the season starts. There are 3,000 words on the website, plus the 15-plus minutes I heard him talk to you and Eric Lopez. I feel like I'm ready for baseball. I feel like I know enough now to be able to be prepared. So go to sonsofUCF.com. Again, 3,000 words, worth your time. I'll look back at last season, look back at kind of the good, the bad, the ugly, where we are, what we need to do. and his outlook on the season, Trace, which surprised both you and Eric Lopez, his prediction for the Knights this year. So check out Around the Kingdom Overtime if you want to know what Michael thinks about UCF's, season prospects this year.
Also, softball underway. They take 6 of their first 8 at home. However, they drop a 5-4 game to number 20 Liberty on Wednesday night. Covering UCF softball this season is Manuela Salinas, and she debuts Softball Minute for us on Sunday.
I don't know if she does debut Softball Minute for us, Trace. Maybe it takes a second for that to debut, as I'm getting an error message right now. But let's try it now.
Salinas for the Sons of UCF, and the week started strong for the Knights as Caitlin Felton earned Big 12 Pitcher of the Week honors. Then on Tuesday, the team made history with a 6-5 comeback win over number 15 Missouri, overcoming a 5-run deficit. But the next day, they fell 5-4 to number 20 Liberty after losing their lead very late. Now they are set for the Shriners Children's Clearwater Invitational, a new challenge for the team's freshmen. So let's hear from the team on their journey so far and what is next.
I mean, there were some good things from us, but at the same time, we were in the driver's seat. We had bases loaded, and I think we wasted about 5 to 6 outs with bases loaded. And we just looked young. So, we can get better at that.
It's a crazy tournament. Crazy things happen in Clearwater. They're really long games, really long days, but it's exciting. The crowds are great, any team, and you just know you're going to get to see some good softball. So I'm excited to go into it for my last time, and I'm excited for a lot of the young girls to be in it for their first time.
The Knights head to Clearwater Invitational kickoff against number 5 Texas on Friday at 11 a.m. I'm Manuela Salinas for the Sons of UCF.
I wasn't expecting that sound effect off the top of the Softball Minute.
Someone's just raking just grounders, Trey. I mean, that's what's going on there.
Didn't expect that. Knights, as Manuela mentioned, Friday against Texas A&M. They also have games against Auburn, Clemson, Ohio State, and a primetime matchup on ESPN Sunday against number 7 Florida State. Murderers row out there, but the Knights are a part of that. Again, winners 6 of their first 8, including that come from behind win over number 15 Missouri earlier in the week. All right, we now go around the kingdom for some news and notes.
Hi, my name's Samantha Ray. I'm utility, play for UCF softball. Let's go around the kingdom.
NFL Combine, February 27th through March 2nd in Indianapolis, will feature B.J. Adams, R.J. Harvey, Kobe Hudson, and Mac McWilliams, who got a lot of press recently, right? Senior Bowl and the like. I didn't see him being in the mix with these other guys, but his stock seems to be rising.
Yeah, look, it's exciting. I mean, it's been years we haven't had anybody at the Combine, so having 4 guys there, I think is helpful. I saw Field Yates tweeted out today some praise for RJ Harvey. So really curious to see what happens in late, like February, early March, as these guys embark upon the great city of Indianapolis. Trace,
have you been?
Never.
I went to the Indy 500 one time.
Is that right?
I saw David Letterman.
Was he driving or just hanging out?
No, he was just hanging out.
No, they drink milk after that thing, which just does not seem like what I would want to do after an athletic event. Just chug a thing.
I don't know the story behind that, though. I don't know why that they do, but I do know that they do. Big pledge announced $1.5 million Wharton Smith for the Hagel Football Gateway Project. Always good when more money flows into facilities. Women's basketball, hey, they got a win over Arizona State, 85-76. They are now 2-11 in the Big 12, 9-14 overall. Saturday at number 11 Kansas State. They stay there on Tuesday at Kansas. And good luck to number 21 men's tennis. ITA Indoor Championship against number 4 Ohio State Friday, the 14th of February in Waco, Texas.
What's your preview there, Trace? What do you think?
I got zero knowledge.
Okay.
You're a tennis guy, though. You watch tennis.
Big tennis fan. I have no idea what's happening here. Big tennis fan. And so I'll certainly root for our Knights. I couldn't tell you. If one of them walked in my house right now with a tennis racket that said, I play UCF tennis, I would not have any idea who that was.
You were saying we need some new sounders. Maybe we'll get one of the interns to go out and find the rowers and the tennis players and the golfers and have them do some of these.
Let's do it. No, I mean, it sounds like an assignment. We've got 2 in the chat right now who are listening. So let's they can rock, paper, scissors for that cushy assignment.
I like that. You saw Eric Lopez in the background earlier. He joined me this week for the latest episode of Around the Kingdom. We were talking about the grades from the sporting news on Coach Frost, amongst many topics.
It could. I'm trying to keep my calm here because this angered me, Trace. It angered me. How is it that Rich Rodriguez gets a high grade? Because what? He was coaching at Jacksonville State? That's a big difference. Give me a break. There's a bunch. I mean, Bill Belichick. You're gonna get great. I don't. How do you grade something when it hasn't coached a game yet? Like everybody graded. Then what grade did Gus Malzahn get? Trace, do you remember?
I don't remember. I'm sure it was an A or a B, right? Maybe an
How'd
A
that go?
higher. Yeah.
Do you think he reached the A level?
I do not think he was an A-lister. What I like about the symbiosis, how's that? How's that for a late night Thursday word? Is the topics that start in the newsletter make their way to around the kingdom, as you were talking about the face of UCF football, and we weave these things in. Perhaps there's something from the Scott Frost interview, maybe even the interview from the Sporting News that might make their way into the next edition of the newsletter.
One can only know, because I have no idea what's going to happen next on that newsletter. But be sure to subscribe. You never know what it's going to be.
You've done 12 of these things.
Yeah, it's more than I thought. Yeah, more than I thought.
We need some guest contributors for that.
Maybe I'll get our guy Lobo Kane in there and get his salient thoughts on all things Scott Frost.
Well, you silver-tongued devil.
I know. I do what I can.
It is that time again. Hey, remember Brian? We don't see him much anymore. He's buried in taxes and such.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
You know, it went so well having Matthew join us last week to answer questions that I invited Dwayne Jones, our intern who covers men's basketball amongst other sports. Dwayne, welcome in to Sons Live.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me again.
I thought you may join us from the softball field. I know nothing's going on there, but that was a great moment when you joined us last week.
I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun.
All right. Unlike Matthew, Adam, I supplied Dwayne with the questions in advance.
Oh, wow. Matthew, I'm so sorry. This dude oh, man. Okay. All right.
I threw Matthew in.
Yeah.
And Dwayne has had time to prepare. So we will begin with Dr. Snap and Pop. Any chance we get to see the Suns at FanFest this year? And can we snag some pictures and autographs? Adam, that's a question for you. I know what it's like when you come to town. People are always interested in.
I don't know what FanFest this is, but we typically try to be at all of them. I don't know why on God's green earth anyone would want my autograph, but if for some reason somebody does, I'll be happy to sign Trace Trocchi on anything you want.
Dwayne, have you had hey, aren't you the guy on the Suns yet? Or are we?
I have not, but I hope I get to that point by the time whatever FanFest this is rolls around, so I can maybe give out some autographs too.
Dwayne was, of course, at the Scott Frost presser and the media availability. Being at the press conference yesterday, did you guys get a sense that the season with Scott Frost and company is promising, or was there a feel of coach speak? Dwayne, did you sense coach speak? You talked to several coaches.
I did. I got the chance to talk to several of them. I didn't really feel coach speak. I felt a lot of excitement. I felt that a lot of the guys really respected Coach Frost and were looking forward to see what he was going to bring to UCF again. So I didn't really get a lot of sense of coach speak. I kind of asked some questions to kind of veer them away from the typical coach speak, if you will. So I heard some really interesting answers, and I think they see something special in this staff and what's going to come up in the fall as well.
Adam, did you hear coach speak from Frost?
I mean, there's not Frost specifically. There are a couple of guys who did a good coach speak effort. Alex Grinch is going to be 15 minutes of coach speak, right? But I think there were some guys who were pretty candid about their journey and how they got here and why they're excited about being here, kind of what they want to accomplish. What I thought was interesting, Trace, and kudos to you and Andrew and Dwayne, wasn't a lot of X's and O's talk, more about like, why are you at UCF? What does this mean to you? What's the culture look like? Why do you want to be here? So I think you get a better knowledge of who these guys are. Again, not a lot of X's and O's outside of Grinch. He was probably the only one that was real coach speaky out of everybody I heard.
At Knights with a 1 instead of the I on Blue Sky. Will Frost bring back pewter, please, and ban those white-black jerseys with the same colored names on the back? I did not hear Coach Frost talk about uniforms. Sorry, Christian. Being a priority in his first 2 months on the job.
Well, did you ask, though? Did you ask?
No.
Well,
I
don't know.
I will mention that Christian had opportunity to ask some of the higher-ups recently and ducked on that question. I was disappointed.
No.
Christian, 2 letters, 2 words. Robert, What are your thoughts on the interview that Scott Frost had with Mark Daniels that was released prior to the media availability on Wednesday? Adam, any news there? Besides that he's really good at world capitals.
Yeah,
and
no,
some of our fans have said that I need to prepare for that because you like to throw us trivia and such on. Please don't do that. We're not gonna do any of that.
Here's the thing. I have no idea if he was right. I assume he was right because Mark Daniels didn't say he was wrong, but he could have just said anything.
Mark,
I have no idea if he was
do you
right.
think Mark had the answers there so he could check them on it?
I hope so. I mean, any good interviewer is prepared, Trace. No, I don't think there was anything that was different than what we heard on Wednesday. I think it was a lot of the same conversation. Again, I just found it really telling, just putting yourself through the human element around flying across country. You're here, you're by yourself, you're trying to get all this stuff accomplished. You're really kind of by your own admission behind a little bit, and it's just sort of his honesty about that and sort of what it took to get to the point where we're at now, where we've got a staff, we've got a roster, and now you're preparing for a practice season. I think it's a hell of a lot of work to do in 7-8 weeks by yourself without a bit of a head start.
At J.A. Hadaway, do you think Scott Frost will return to working out with the team, playing quarterback? Of course, Jim says on second team. I think he's referencing scout team. Dwayne, you may not be aware that Scott Frost suited up with the scout team and prepping for Navy and the option. That was that kind of bonded him with the fan base a bit, Adam.
Yeah, it did. I think everyone loved Frost. It's funny, in my interview with Mitch Sherman, he came to Nebraska as kind of this cool young coach who does all this like cool young stuff, and here we are now, like 6 years later, and the guy's 50 years old, and so it's interesting how things change. So are we playing any option teams though?
No.
Well, then I think we're good. I don't want to see Navy ever again. Get Navy out of my life because not the Navy of God bless all our soldiers, by the way, but the football team Navy, get them out of my
life. Clip that, Matthew, clip it. Anti-America.
I love the Navy. I love them all.
Adam,
Navy.
And he had every reason to, but Coach Frost looked a little tired at the media availability, didn't he? He looked like a guy that's been working the last 2 months. Anyway.
I think he did. That was one of the first things I noticed, Trace. I will say, back to kind of what Adam said again with the interview with Mark Daniels and also him kind of suiting up in the scout team with the scout team. Excuse me. I think one of the things that really kind of came off the screen for me during that interview was how he said he's a different man now. He's got 3 kids. And, he's learned so much through his time off and his time in LA as well. He also said the same thing about Mackenzie Milton and how he's a different man and not the same hero that suited up for UCF. So I think, yes, he was very candid, like Adam said, about the whole process and that stressful 5 weeks that he had. So he did really kind of come off tired at that press availability. But I think he will get re-energized soon enough. And maybe we'll see him suiting up on the practice field again.
Adam, here's a fun behind-the-scenes moment. Coach Beckham, UCF Athletics Hall of Famer, quizzing young Dwayne, pointed to the banner of championships, conference championships, and said, how many was I involved in of those conference championships? Put Dwayne on the spot. Dwayne guessed 3. Correct answer, 4. He was on the coaching staff of 4 of those conference championships.
One off. I was one off.
That's
close.
But
I did
how
get
about
a nice compliment from him. So very funny interaction with Coach Beckham.
Yeah, good guy. And Dwayne, we talked a little bit about this at the media availability. Scored in 4 different manners in a game during his playing time at UCF. I mean, come on. That's
Al Bundy before there was Al Bundy. Dwayne, are you going to think of, we were talking earlier, are you going to think of Mackenzie Milton as a player or as a coach? I mean, you didn't really see him as a player. So now you're only sort of, I know you've probably seen highlights, but are you going to consider him a coach now or a player?
I'm actually really glad you asked that question because I was talking to my dad earlier, and my first introduction to UCF as a school was the Mackenzie Milton years, the Scott Frost years back in 2016, 2017. I vividly remember watching them on television and just being shocked every week. And I vividly remember watching the Peach Bowl as well against Auburn. So to me, Mackenzie Milton is kind of a hero in my book as well. It definitely, got me interested into UCF at, I believe that was 5th grade, maybe 6th grade for me.
All right, now
I will think of him as a hero. I vividly remember his playing days. And so, yeah, I think though a lot of students here will kind of see him as more of a coach, but they'll know, what he's done So I don't know. I think that'll be interesting to see when the fall rolls around.
Because there's a certain age, Trace, where people think of Coach Becton as the player, right, for what they saw him on the field. And a lot of us think of Coach Becton just as Coach Becton, right? So I'm curious where the McKenzie-Milton line will get drawn as time goes on.
Well, fifth graders, apparently.
Yeah,
It's got 88513 as UCF on the bubble for the NIT. Okay.
Yes.
But there's also this tournament in Las Vegas. What was this thing called here? The Crown or something like that, where the Big 12 is contracted with a network, Fox maybe, to
that is correct,
air games. And so there might not be an NIT. They might go straight to that tournament 3 weeks after the season ends. That's something that we'll have to talk a little bit more about in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. That's kind of a made-for-TV event. I think there's a cash element to this or some sort of a monetary element to get in that. So when UCF always needs money, we'll take that, right? But are we going to do the same thing, Trace? Who's going to opt out? Who's going to transfer? Who's not going to be part of it? So I'm curious to see how this all works out if we get to that part, or the NIT for that matter. Like, is someone who's maybe thinking about going someplace else going to go play in the NIT and risk an injury and maybe get out of here? So I think we're smack dab in the middle of the reality of college athletics again.
Black Gold _ at over under percentage of P4 schools that will forever refer to UCF as Central Florida. It's always in the graphics, always in the game notes. I think it's intentional at this point.
I agree. Yeah. I agree.
At Hoff and for America. What is the floor and ceiling for baseball this season? Adam, you're a baseball aficionado.
All right.
You've read Michael's well-written 3,000 plus
3,000 words. All right. So I'm going to steal Michael's prediction here. I think Michael has at 40 wins and getting into a postseason berth. However, I saw, I think it was D1 baseball came out today. UCF not picked or selected to be among the field. So a snub potentially on that side. So Michael's smarter about baseball than I'll ever be. So if he says 40 wins, I say make it 41.
I think they've got a Cure Bowl bid locked up. I think they've got, see, this is when you don't know your sports. You just say something like that. No, I like their chances. I like Coach Wallace. I like what he's assembled. At Golden Knight _2. After a couple seasons down in the Big 12, what unique experiences, traditions does the UCF fan base offer the conference, and what traditions do you see other schools do that UCF should adopt or emulate? You know, I thought about that question. There's things that have come and gone because we can't seem to settle on anything traditional. Dwayne, you may be surprised to learn there was a time when all the fans shook their car keys at games before kickoffs, and there used to be a cannon in the end zone in the stadium known as the Citrus Bowl, actual cannon that was fired. What are the traditions? I mean, I know they're trying to establish it with night walk, but UCF's not unique in that. Other schools get off a bus and walk between their fans. So that's, Dwayne, what do you consider the traditional elements of game day?
Well, for starters, I was kind of thinking about this as far as what UCF brings to the Big 12. I mean, we bring Florida. What more could you really ask for? I think that's a good enough gift for a lot of Big 12 teams who live in these states that are definitely looking forward, or an excuse to come to Florida. As far as traditions go, I was kind of in the basketball mindset. I know schools like Auburn have Auburn and Duke kind of have where students will kind of camp out outside of the stadium ahead of the basketball games. I know
because there's demand for tickets, Dwayne.
Yes, I understand. I know you have to be good for that, but it would be really cool to see the front of Edition Financial just covered in tents and, you know, players bringing out pizza for students. I think that'd be really cool. Obviously, you probably wouldn't have a 5-game losing streak if you were a school that did that. So hopefully we can get to that point one day. But as far
you could start it before the next home game. Invite a friend to join you, and then it would build from there.
Isn't it that? I think it's Knighted Nate on Twitter. He's always the first one in line at the student line. So maybe you and Nate can, you know, team up, Dwayne, and just start something.
You just can't set the tent there first. You got to let Nate establish the overnight accommodations. Dwayne, have you ever camped out overnight for tickets or Black Friday shopping or anything of that nature?
I have not. Black Friday, unfortunately, kind of died. I know I have a lot of friends that kind of camp out for concerts for floor access, but I have not gotten to that point of fandom yet either. So hopefully the first time I camp out for something in an arena, it is for UCF basketball.
Well, then I guess his entire collegiate career, he won't be worrying about this. To answer the question more specifically, I just think the fact that these schools have been around for 100 years just leads to things that they do traditionally, right? UCF men's basketball was just at Kansas. I can't find a more traditional venue than that. And that's why something like the Franz, which is kind of silly, but if they're still doing that 50, 100 years from now, then that's a traditional thing. I just like to see him stick with some stuff, even if it's silly stuff like the keys or the cannons. At UCF Knights Win, you ever type up a tweet but never hit send, and after the fact thought to yourself, "Wow, I really dodged a bullet," and then he cites one, 8/29/24. His text read, "Heading out to the bounce house to watch KJ Jefferson start his Heisman campaign."
I mean, to be fair to UCF Knights Win, a lot of us thought that KJ was going to have a great season. We thought it was a great fit.
So
there may or may not be a co-host on Around the Kingdom who wrote the Heisman Trophy column for
Lopez.
him. So, yeah, I mean, we all are a little guilty of the hype at that point in time. But lessons learned, right? We all live, we learn. So UCF Knights Win. It's a good lesson. Drop and give us 10 push-ups, and just try to get better tomorrow.
It made me look in the drafts on Twitter to see what I hadn't sent, and there was just an occasional soundbite, and I thought about just hitting send on all of them for it just to be random reaction to things, but I didn't do that. Dwayne, before we play America's fastest growing quiz show sensation, What's in the Box, a little bit about you. Adam, tell him, when we first met Dwayne at Internship Pursuit, what was your takeaway from Dwayne in that moment? You're muted.
I liked Dwayne a lot. Immediately after he left the table, as we were talking about all the candidates, and we had like 20 people there, you immediately began referring to him as the Tampa Bay Bucks guy, and that's how that was how we refer. We were like, "Oh, we have this guy, we have this person, the Tampa Bay Bucks guy." That's how we referred to Dwayne, because he gave us an impassioned speech about a Tampa Bay Bucks and how they were doing at that point in time. So I'm not sure Trace actually knows your name yet, Dwayne. I think he may call you the Bucks guy behind the scenes. So just FYI.
Dwayne, you're doing a great job. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Where are you at in school and major and career pursuits and all those good things?
Yeah, guys, my major right now is broadcast journalism with the minor in political science currently. I can't pick between sports and political science, but I know I want to be somewhere talking about it. But I'm doing great. I recently got hired for an internship this summer with WESH 2 News. So everybody that watches WESH, hopefully I'll make an appearance on your TV this summer. Maybe not. We'll see. But everything.
Well, I can tell you that Matthew will show you how to do that. Just wander around behind the camera while other people are doing stories.
Get into a couple frames. I'll have to work my way into a couple shots. But other than that, everything's great. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers they did not make it far at all in the playoffs. Actually, they lost in the first round. But I'm glad that is how I am remembered in your guys' heads. It's truly been amazing being able to work with you guys so far. So everything's going great, and I'm loving my times with the Suns as well.
That's great.
Well, it's not just, by the way, it's not all. It was only Trace. I knew your name from the moment. I'm good with names and face. It was only Trace. It was only
so
Trace.
Everybody knows. Yes, Trace was the one that asked, and Adam was like, "Wow, kind of harsh." It was right off our loss, Monday night loss to Baltimore, and we had lost Chris Godwin and Mike Evans in the same night. So it was a rough night. But look at us now, guys.
Yeah.
And what did I say? What the hell happened to them? And you're like,
I believe that was the
like,
leading question. Yeah, no. And the HR, I was like, gee, I don't think you can do that, Trace. And then you don't even know the guy's name. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of violations there that Sons Incorporated need to look into at some point.
It's the way I remember things initially, but Dwayne has done such good work. Was a star at football, the availability, and all of the things he's covered. So his name imprinted. I remember it very clearly. All right. Hey, Matthew, come on in. We're going to play What's in the Box. You want to play? There's. Hey, you may have seen Matthew earlier wandering around aimlessly.
You're just doing this so you don't have to answer the question. Your hope is that you flood more people on the screen. People are going to forget Trace Trocco. So, Dwayne, Matthew, I need you both to leg out. Let Trace answer first, and then we will get your esteemed thoughts. Don't forget, though, brought to you by Alumni Hall, where you can go to 4100 North Alafaya Trail. They have a ton of stuff, including 2 for 38 t-shirts at all times. This week's question is, who is the most famous person you've ever met? Trace Trocco and Trace Trocco only. Who is the most famous person you've ever met?
I don't know.
I'm not that hard. That's a good one. That is a good one.
Well, in UCF world, I will say I was a bit starstruck meeting Dante Culpepper. So that is certainly one. And to speak to him on the phone, to have him in my contacts, name dropping big time here, that was huge. I don't know. I mean, I've interviewed so many people through the years, political people and the like. I'll have to, but for now, Dante.
All right. Thanks for the original answer. Dwayne, who is the most famous person you've ever met?
I would have to say at the top of my head, I met Cam Newton about 4 years ago.
Was Gus Mills on there as well?
He was not. It was Cam at a restaurant, and he took a picture with me after he was done eating, and it was very interesting. A lot of people really don't give him enough credit for just how big he is as a human. Like, he's like Superman huge.
Was he wearing a crocheted outfit like he did?
He was wearing one of his original pieces from his closet. It was something. The hat and all.
All right, Matthew, can you top Cam Newton?
No, but I'd have to say Derek Brooks was pretty cool. I'm from Tampa, also a big Bucks fan, as you can see by the flag. Yeah, I met Derek Brooks one time at a practice. Actually, he was just there doing I think something for the organization at the time, and just got to take a picture. I was a real little kid at the time, so that was pretty cool.
All right. I think for me, UCF Mike not on the show. He will remember this. We were in college. We were at a downtown Orlando establishment enjoying a nice evening out when we saw a bunch of ladies moving back to a back corner of a place really quickly, and they were being escorted. And so as I walked over there, I then was met by one. They were being escorted. I met one Patrick Ewing, who was at the time playing for the Magic, who was having a little VIP party section situation. The largest human being I've ever met. Like, he was just a enormous giant man. I also met Ken Griffey Jr. one time at Disney World.
Just random?
Random, yeah. I was there with his kids.
All right, you got me thinking of other names now. Steve Spurrier, that was pretty huge when I was a kid to see Steve Spurrier. Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh, wow.
I had an opportunity to interview him when he was with the Magic, so that's another name, I would say.
I got one.
You know what I think we're going to do, by the way?
Magic Johnson. Okay, well, that's a good one.
You know what? I met Magic Johnson, too.
All of a sudden, Mr. One-Up, everybody. I met him
He had
too.
he had a very white smile. I'd never forget. I mean, he just looked like he needed to be on TV. Never.
Dwayne, I assume you've met Magic Johnson as well. Is that where we're going?
I have not, but you brought up Patrick Ewing. I was just a random thought that came to my mind. Do you think Patrick Ewing would come out and get back into coaching to coach UCF?
He seemed like he had a good time at that downtown club. I don't know. Maybe you can lure him back with that. I don't know.
Wow. Dwayne breaking some news that there's a coach.
We're fighting.
It could work out in Orlando.
You got a future. If you already fired Johnny Dawkins and hired as a replacement all in like a 2 second span. That was good. That was fantastic.
Matthew, you did such a good job on this segment last week that Adam said maybe we should bring in different interns to answer questions during the mailbag. But I like this idea of just bringing them all in. And so next week we had a third, and then we've got Brady Bunch boxes. So
we got some good ones in the chat here. Dolly had coffee with Jason Sudeikis. Which is pretty cool. Mario met Joe Gibbs. I'm not really sure.
Probably some NASCAR guy.
Joe Gibbs,
also formerly football coach.
Yeah, I don't know about Joe Gibbs.
Patrick Ewing. All right, Bill Trocchi. We thank him from the Sporting News for being with us. Bowtie Ben Hazel, Sam's Bowtie. Matthew for doing everything behind the scenes, keeping things lively. And Dwayne, Star of the Week. Are we handing out awards? Can we hand out awards, Adam? Star of the Week for the Sons of UCF University.
Sounds like you just did, so you might as well.
And be sure to say hi to Andrew Gregg, Nick Williams, myself out at UCF Baseball all weekend as the Knights host Siena. For all of the guys, I'm Trey Strelko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
Sean Clark, offensive line coach. Thank you for watching the Sons of UCF.
They just roll out these O-line coaches.
He looks like an O-line coach. Like if you said close your eyes at him and picture an O-line coach, that's there. That is what I have. I don't know if it's just me. Like that's what I picture O-line coaches.
Yeah, they just come in a model, right? He just looks like him.
Seems like a good coach. I don't know.